In today's video, we're going to be drawing a Japanese style samurai frog. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. I'm Daggett, this is Daggett Designs, and in today's video we're drawing a samurai frog. Now this video is highly requested. I've had a lot of people ask, can you do a Japanese style samurai frog or toad, or just any of the sort of Japanese characters, the animal sort of folklore characters. So I thought this one would be really interesting. For those who requested it, I really hope you enjoy it. And for those of you who didn't, I really hope you learned something as well. If you already know you're going to love today's video, make sure you smash that like button. It really helps the channel out, and I really do appreciate it. With that having been said, let's jump straight into today's video by going to the overhead. Okay everyone, welcome back to the table. So we're starting off with a piece of A5 sketch paper. I've got a mechanical pencil to sketch our design and an eraser should we need it. So to start this one out, we're going to lay in some foundation lines. We're going to start by putting in the body. That's going to be the sort of largest point of our character here. So we're starting off with just an oval shape. You want to make this oval shape slightly egg-shaped, so it's going to be slightly smaller towards the top and a little bit wider towards the bottom. And then I just want to put in like a center line that wraps around this way and around that side as well. So this is going to be almost a 3/4 view on this guy. For the head, we're going to have him looking off to the right here. So I want to put in an oval shape for the top of the head there, the top portion of the head. And I'll have his mouth open. So for the bottom jaw, I'm going to come down a little bit and just drop in another oval underneath it like that. Okay, from here I just want to connect up a few parts. So just joining the back of the head into the body here with a line, and the jaw I will just drop from underneath and down into the body. And we can start dropping in shapes for the limbs. So I'm going to start with the left hand side here, putting in an oval shape for the top part of the arm. For the bottom part of the arm, we're going to do another sort of oval eggplant sort of shape, like this. And then for our hand, I just put in, for now, a little circle with a little circle next to it for where our thumb will be. So when you're dropping in these shapes, you can play around a little bit with the different shapes, but just keep the forearm that sort of eggplant shape. It's got to be a bit skinnier down near the wrist, and I try to keep the upper arm or the bicep and tricep area a oval shape. For the right side, we'll do the same thing, just dropping in a large oval. The very front of it will be obscured slightly by the body, and then I'll drop the arm down with a similar shape to what we did on the other side. And again, just a little circle and another little circle next to that for the thumb. Now for the legs, basically what we're going to do is a cone shape for our thigh. And you want to make your thigh fairly large on this one. So just coming in a little bit off the center line here, dropping a line back, and then another one towards there. So it's almost like a cone shape down to this point here. It's not going to quite touch at that point there. And then I'm going to come down and back on an angle like this, and a slightly longer line behind that. So this one in the front should be a little bit shorter. And then you're going to bring that down again, and then just forward for the toes. And you can sort of rough this in as little rectangles or just little shapes to represent those areas as we add more details later on. And you're going to go ahead and do a similar thing for the other side. So just coming out with this sort of cone shape, adding in the back of the calf there and that area for the shin, and then bringing the foot down and bending it at the toes there. So this is the way I like to draw limbs. There's a lot of different ways to do it. Some people will do straight lines with little balls where the joints will sit, little circles, but it just depends how you like to do it. I kind of like doing it in this way, and it helps me rough out the size and shape a little bit better. All right, from here we can start to add in some of the details for the actual face. So I'm going to start at the top of the head here. I'm actually going to put in a big circle shape like that, and another one just behind it, overlapping. And then you're going to drop down to the very bottom line of that circle that you just drew and put in a little oval, and that's where your eyes are going to sit. So you can draw, I like to draw a line like this to link up the outer edges of our eye. And then you can put a pupil in. Now, depending on the style of pupil you like, I like to do these 2 dots and then link them in the middle like that. So it's almost a jelly bean shape, but it depends how you want this to look for your character. Now from here, you can basically add a line in for where your circle sits. And then I'm going to come out from the front of it with a W curve like that. And then you're going to have your mouth actually curve back with a long S curve like this. Back to about the point where the ovals intersect. Now from there, you can just add the other circle to the back side of it. So we're seeing the opposite side of the head there. For the back of the head, I like to just follow that line through and add a nice big W curve in like that. You can also add a small nostril at the front. Now to do the inside area of the mouth, I like to come out following the middle of this oval here roughly with a very slight W curve. Then you're going to basically join up from the bottom. So coming from around here and then coming towards the top half and then linking up with a little curve like that to give us an open mouth. And you can play around with the size of this a little bit. So you can of course slim out that jaw a little bit if you would like. Normally I like to do a slightly slimmer jaw. That depends on the size of the frog or whether it's a toad and just how you want it to look aesthetically. And then at the back of the mouth here, I like to put this little V shape. Now he's going to be wearing like a skirt or a pair of shorts. So I'm just going to cut off around the hip area so we know where to draw the body down to. Of course, you can add whatever kind of costume you'd like if you want to go full samurai armor or something like that. Now to start our arm here, I'm going to go ahead and put in like a jelly bean shape for the top portion of the arm. So that's the bottom side, or maybe it's more of like a peanut shape. Like that. And then to join the top, you can just add a little bump for the shoulder. And then for your forearm area, we're going to section it off. So at the top, it's going to have almost like a love heart look to it, coming out from the center like that. And it's going to come out and back in for your wrist. Just like that. To do the actual hand, you can pretty much split that off into 2, that circle. Bring one knuckle around just like that. Bring another one around. He's going to be holding something, so I'll just draw the first knuckle of the thumb there and leave this little section open so that we can add something later on. Now just underneath the arm that we drew there, coming from the outside of the circle, I like to put a little fold in the skin there. You can add as many or as few of those as you would like. And then bring his body down to the line where we're going to draw in his pants or his skirt, whatever costume you're putting on him. Come down to the point at which you drew the intersecting lines here. And put in a small belly button and a couple of lines trailing up to it from underneath his clothing there. And then for the other side of the body, I pretty much like to just come down from the neck here like this. Add in a slight bump where the sort of breastbones would be. And then come out again for a nice chubby belly just like that. Alright, now for the other arm, you're pretty much doing the same thing, adding in a sort of elongated peanut shape for the top part of the arm. And an additional little line for the shoulder. And then we're doing a similar little love heart shape design, elongated love heart design for our forearm. Just bringing that down to where our fist is. And then this one is pretty much the same. You're just adding in the little knuckles. So I like to add in my thumb shape like that. And then you can go ahead and add in the other 2 fingers. Doing these little frog hands is quite fun actually. It's really simple and not too difficult, whereas drawing human hands obviously is quite hard. Now, so what I like to do with these little frog guys, and of course everyone's going to have a different way of doing it, I like to add a skirt made of a leaf or a lily pad. So I like to bring out a line like this and then add a whole bunch of large and small curves, sort of alternating in whatever fashion you like. Just coming across your legs here. and then going back up into the hip there, and then doubling up on portions of that. So just coming down to behind the knee here, and that might come up to there. And then you can come down from the other side behind the leg and maybe add a couple more curves like this. And then you can go ahead and draw some curved lines from each of the little peaks back towards the body there. Just like that. So to actually draw the legs in, what I like to do is start with this top part of the thigh here. Add a couple of bumps or knobbly bits for the knees, and then come straight down into the shin. Then I like to add this little shape to the other side of the knee there, just to show where the kneecap sort of sits. And then you can come out and down for our calf muscle, and back up with our thighs. So really simple construction for the legs there. And then you can bring that down onto the foot, just with using more sort of curved lines. And then for each of the toes, you're going to do this in a similar way that you would do finger waves actually. You're going to start with a smaller toe, just like that. And then I like to curve out a couple of times like that, making the third one across the largest or longest. And then at the back of all this, you can just add a little lump or a little nub that looks like the top of the opposite side short toe there. That's the way that I like to do their feet. So you're going to repeat this process for the other leg. So once you've got your basic frog shape, I guess, your basic toad or frog design here, you can pretty much go crazy and do whatever you'd like with it. You can create any sort of character you'd like. If you're designing tattoos, you can have multiple different characters in this sort of design. Or maybe if you're doing like a comic book or, you know, just an illustration piece, you can make this toad and frog basic template into many different characters. But from here, we're doing like a samurai design. So I'd like to go ahead and start adding some equipment. We're going to start by adding a sword. So going into where the left hand is here, you want to draw a little oval shape at the front of the hand. Like that. And that's going to be like the guard on the sword there. And you can double up on one of those lines just to give a little bit of dimension. And then coming from the front of the sword, we're actually going to take a ruler. And I'm going to go across on a slight angle and do a straight line across like that. And then come down underneath it and double up on that line. When you reach nearly the very end of this line, you stop and angle it up to join. And at the very back, you can round it off to join. Now, optionally for the back here, if you want to, you can add a little bit more thickness to the lines and add a little bit of texture to the handle. I just like to do a little crisscross pattern, especially if the design's going to be this small. The sword that's pretty much it for the sword. We just leave that as is. Now I also want to do a bow in the other hand. So the way we're going to do that is pretty much bring a curved line through the hand here. Just like that. And you can double up on that curve. Just a nice simple bow. Doubling up on that curve. And then you're going to drop a straight line back and behind the arm. And that's going to be the bowstring. Now we're going to add a quiver to his back so that we can have some more stuff going on in the front here. So I just like to add in the very top portion of it by adding a little circle. And then you can do some little straight lines, just short ones like this, with these little diamond sort of patterns on the end of them that look like the feathers. And of course you can go into as much detail or as little detail as you want, depending on the size of your illustration. Because this guy's quite small, I don't want to sort of overcomplicate things by adding too much detail to it. From here, I just want to add a strap that goes from the hip down here all the way up and across the shoulder. So just starting on the hip and bringing this strap up, and then you can double up on that as you go up and across. That's the strap for the quiver. And you can add any sort of pattern work you'd like to this as well. And I'm going to add a gourd to the bottom here. That's going to be to sort of carry his water. So you can go ahead and add a circle, and underneath it a larger circle. Join the two up in the middle with curved lines like this, so you have this like large jelly bean or peanut sort of shape. And at the top you just draw a little stopper in, and then you can attach some ropes so that you can tie that to the belt there. So I like to just add in a couple of ropes around the middle of the gourd, and then we can just have a rope going up above the belt there and out the other side. Now another thing you can do with the lily pad dress that he's wearing is add some veins to it. So I like to just add these little veins, and these can be done in either a really fine liner, or they can be done with a grey fine liner as well. Or if you were tattooing the design, it would be a grey wash line. Now this wouldn't be a Japanese toad style design if you didn't have any tattoos, so let's go ahead and take a look at that now. So what I'd like to do is give him half sleeves and sort of a bodysuit design. So just cutting off just before the elbow here with a couple of curved lines. These are going to be clouds. And then we're going to come around from the top of the shoulder and down each side of the body, leaving a strip down the center. So I'm just going to do cloud pattern for this one. So just little curved lines coming around. Now when you're doing tattoos on little characters like this, again, it's going to be relative to how big your design is, you know, how big your character is. When it's something this small, I like to keep it relatively simple, just such as these cloud designs. And then you can go ahead and maybe add some little cherry blossoms to it, just by adding, you know, these little petal shapes and flower shapes. Keep it nice and simple when you're doing something this small for sure. Alright, once you've done all of the tattoos on his body and you're happy with how the character looks, you can go ahead and transfer it to watercolor paper. But I do want to add a bit of a background to this one. So just a very, very small amount of background towards the bottom here. I'm going to come in and add some jagged peaks like this. And these are going to indicate some sort of rocky structure that he's standing on. Okay, so we're doing these the same way that we would do any traditional Japanese style rocks for, you know, mountains and waves and stuff like that. So just adding in this little rocky structure at the bottom, and then you can go ahead and add in some finger waves if you'd like as well. So we're going to have the waves crashing off to the right here just by adding in some long finger waves like this. Now once you've finished your sketch with the background and all the little details you want to put into it for your character, feel free to customize it. We can go ahead and transfer this one to some watercolor paper so that we're ready for painting. Just a quick note before we start painting, I'd like to let you guys know that the class notes for this one will be available in the class notes folder of your channel membership. So if you're not a member of the channel yet and you'd like to support me and get some excellent perks while you're at it, there's a link down in the description. Thank you. So I'm going to run you guys through my palette quickly. I've got solid carbon black. I have a grey wash, which is just carbon black mixed with water. I have sap green permanent. This is transparent raw umber. I have orange red, and I've also got a yellow orange azo, or as I like to call it, golden yellow. Along with this, I've got two brushes. These are Taklon synthetic brushes, a number 5 and a number 6. And I've also got a glass of water, which will just be used to wash my brushes out and do a little bit of blending. So as always, we're starting off with our black shading, and I'm actually going to start by doing our little background areas here. So just taking a bit of black to load my brush up. And I'm going to come down to this area here, just avoiding the little details and stuff that I've done in there. And leaving a little strip of white across the very top of our rock there. Now, being that this is a rock and it has that sort of organic nature to it, you don't have to be too neat with your black here. You do want nice smooth blending, but your black can be a little bit rough. Take your blending brush, feather out the edge of your black and blend it on down. And you're basically going to go across the surface of the rock here, doing the same method, just coming across, leaving a little gap of white and blending it down. Once I've done this little rock area, I'm just going to take my blending brush into a bit of grey wash, and I'm going to go ahead and do my waves. Now I'm going to do these the same way I've done them in all of the videos I've done that have wave designs in them. Basically, it's grey from the base of the waves and blending up towards white, up towards the fingers of each of the waves. So you can basically add a darker tone to the bottom of these and then just blend out and up into the top areas. And I like to try and reach white before I get to the end of each of those fingers. Now, while you've still got your grey wash going, you can go ahead and fill in the tattoos on his body. So I've outlined these using mostly grey, just a grey fine liner. And I'm going to go ahead and fill in straight over the top of everything with a grey. You kind of want to desaturate a lot of it. So I'm going over the top of most of the areas with a grey. I'll leave a few white sort of areas of highlight through there as well. But mostly just going over all of those areas of tattooed skin with a grey. And I'm just leaving those little bits of white around some of the individual clouds that I've drawn in. Otherwise, I'm going straight over the top of everything with grey, including the cherry blossoms, just to try and desaturate those a little bit, because I did those with a red fine liner and they're a little bit bright. So from here, going into our sap green with my inking brush, and I'm pretty much going across the top border at the back of the head here, and I'm just leaving a strip of white there as well. And then with my blending brush, I'm just going to blend that green out and down. You can blend that right down underneath the eye and onto the chest a little bit as well. You can bring that to the section just above the eye, making sure to leave a little white gap across the top there. And then gently blend that across and down into the front of the eye. And again, from the front where the nose starts, you can do the same thing, coming down with a bit of green. And then just blending that down and around to the front. So we're going from a nice dark green off the back edge of everything and blending that down to a lighter green tone. Now coming down to doing the arms is going to be the same thing, leaving a little white gap, adding in your green and blending across. Now if this is a toad, you find you might want to do this in a grey or maybe a brown sort of tone. Will look really nice for a toad. In this case, it's going to be more of a frog, I guess. So just going through with a green for this one. But of course, you know, frogs and toads can be all sorts of different colors. So get creative and play around with different color schemes. And if you're doing different characters, you know, you can always play around with different color schemes. And now for the legs, you're pretty much going to tackle that the same way that you did the arms, just leaving that white strip where you feel like it needs to be broken up a little bit and blending that out and across different areas to get your green shades in there. Now once you've done your green, you can go ahead and go into your orange red, and we're going to do that on the inside of the mouth. So coming to the inside of the mouth with orange red at the very back of the mouth, and then with a blending brush, I like to just blend that forward to white towards the open portion of the mouth. This adds a little bit of depth to the mouth. And you can pretty much use that orange red for any other parts of the design that you think should be red in color. So the reason I'm using an orange red here is because I used a red fine liner for the cherry blossoms in his tattoos there. So I kind of just want to use a slightly different color. Instead of using a Pyrrole red like I normally would, I just went with an orange red, and I think that looks really nice. Alright, so transparent raw umber, we're using that for a few different parts. We're going to be using that for the bow, so painting the bow in that color. Now this is a transparent, almost a brown sort of color, so anything that's made of wood or anything I guess that's made of branches and things like that will be this color. I'm going to do the quiver on his back with this color as well. We have a nice brown tone for that. And I'm also going to use this for the gourd. Now I'm going to leave a little white strip around the edge of the gourd and then blend that color across, because we're going to use a very similar color in the dress that he's wearing. It's like an old leaf, dry sort of leaf. And I kind of don't want it to look identical, so I'm going to basically make that a little bit lighter on the gourd there, just by watering it down a little bit. And I'm also just going to do a straight wash of it across the strap that he's wearing, across his front here. Now you could of course get fancy, paint individual patterns on there and, you know, mess around with different colors and that. It's completely up to you. Okay, going into your yellow, orange azo or golden yellow, you can do the eye in this color. And in this case, it's very simple, just solid yellow in the eye. And I'm also going to use that for areas on the sword, like the back of the handle and the little hand guard towards the front. And there's also a little bit of lightning on his tattoos here, so I'm just going to do those bits of lightning yellow. You could of course do these red, you could do them blue, just depends how you want this to look. So I'll do a little bit of the lightning on his body using that yellow. Now I'm actually going to go back into my grey wash because I did forget to do one part, and that was the sword blade. So I'm going to come from the back with a little bit of grey wash, and then I'm just going to blend that forward using my blending brush towards the tip. Nice and simple for this one. Like I said, it's a small design, so really simple color with not too much shading on this one. Now we also have to do a little bit of black shading in the dress area here. So in the back layer, we add a little bit of black and we can blend that out. Now you guys will know that I always do black shading first, but occasionally it'll happen where maybe you weren't sure about something, so you skip that part and come back to it. Or occasionally you just forget. In this case, I forgot to do a little bit of black and grey wash shading in the sword and in the little dress that he's wearing. So I'm just coming back in with a little bit of black to do that now. Okay, now once you've done your grey wash shading for the skirt there, you can go back into your raw umber and you can go ahead and start painting that in. So I just go straight over the top of my black shading. And for the bottom area here, I'm going to do solid color, leaving a little white gap around the border of each of these lines. This is for the portion that's showing at the back of his legs. And for the portion at the front, I'll go over the top of my black shading with solid color, coming up towards the edge. And just as we get to the edge, I'll blend that out just a little bit. And that is basically it for this one, guys. So I'm just adding my stamp now. I really hope you enjoyed this one. I hope you learned something. And I hope for those of you that requested this one, I hope it satisfied your requests. Now that is basically it from me today, guys. So I really hope you enjoyed this one. I hope for those of you that requested it, I did the design justice. And other than that, I'll see you guys in the next video. So keep up the drawing. Bye-bye. If you like the content that I make and you'd like to support the channel, make sure you smash that like button. And hey, while you're at it, check out one of these other great videos.